Very clear to me that all animals, whether dog, pig, cow, whatever, all have sentience. We all know that every single animal has the capacity to have a maternal instinct, a paternal instinct, to experience fear, to experience love, to experience joy. So knowing that, we now acknowledge that they are sentient beings. We can prove that across the board, whatever animal it is. So knowing that a cow can experience the same fear that a dog can experience, that is, for me, all I need to know. And I would be spending my days with these animals, helping them have a better experience. But then I would go home and drink milk and have an ostrich steak, which is like what people in South Africa eat. And I always thought that eating animals was quite strange. Like, I didn't really enjoy it, and I thought it was weird. But then at some point, I felt like it was very hypocritical. Everybody knew me as this girl that loved animals. But no one realized like how hypocritical it was to say I loved animals, but then I would also eat them. Like, that to me is very strange. So it was like, but at the time, I mean, I was only probably like 10 or 12 years old. I didn't know what veganism was. You never heard that word in South Africa. I lived in like a farm in South Africa for a while. Like, nobody would have ever said that word. But when I heard the word vegan, I was like, oh, I didn't even know that existed. And also, you're never educated on what happens in the dairy industry, by the way, or the egg industry or whatever. But having access to that information, I was like, oh my God, I cannot consume this stuff. And then especially with what I do professionally, how am I supposed to access and work with the feelings and the sentience of animals on an energetic level if I'm consuming them? It makes no sense. So yeah, it was a no-brainer for me to go vegan. And I haven't eaten meat in like 11 years, but I went vegan probably like 6 years ago. It was honestly the best decision I ever made. It like raises, honestly, it sounds hippie, but you know, eating low vibrational food like dairy and meat, it literally is dead matter. That is dead matter. It is a low vibrational food. That is a scientific thing.
And it's been dead for a while. Some of the meat that people eat has been frozen for like months and months.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you are consuming dead matter.
It was actually my little sister who made the connection before I did. I remember sitting at the dinner table and she said, "Wait a minute. When you say chicken, do you mean it's an actual chicken?" And my mother was trying to avoid answering that question, and I could see from her face that it was, in fact, an actual chicken. And so, you know, we were quite young, and then I remember the two of us talking to each other and think, well, so what is beef? What is pork? You know, so we were discovering, all of a sudden realizing that we were being fed our animal friends. And so we both stopped eating meat immediately, which was the right thing to do as Hindus anyways. My parents had wandered away from that tradition, but we brought it back.
Animals are far more than what anybody wants to give them credit for. One of the reasons that people cannot deal with allowing them to have that kind of spirit and that kind of spirituality is that it changes the way you have to look at the world. Can you walk through the meat aisle knowing what happened to these animals? These animals did not have good lives. There was pain and misery and suffering the whole time. If you give animals that kind of credit, then you have to change your life. You have to change your life. And I want people to understand you should change your life. I'm not saying to the extent where you have 150 animals in your backyard and you spend your whole day taking care of them, but allowing that in is only going to make your life better. It's going to enrich your life. Allowing the connection. The more connection to animals, the more connection to spirit, the more connection to yourself, to your own spirit.
I really see no difference between like the dogs and cats that I've had close encounters with, pigs and the chickens and the cows that I've met inside factory farms. When I go into these places, I actually go in with the awareness of wanting to connect with them, and I want to find out who they really are and what they're about. And it's been really beautiful to share with them. It's also very sad, of course, because the conditions they live in are absolutely appalling. And what I have found, like for example with broiler chickens, the general sense is that a lot of them really don't feel anything at all. They're actually quite dead. I mean, they only live there for a period of 6 weeks. They're only babies when they are at the point when they're actually sent to an abattoir. And they're living in a large shed in very crowded conditions. They're giving a lot of unnatural things like antibiotics, which is really contributing to them not being able to really feel who they are. But what I've also noticed is really incredible. When I've taken a chicken from a broiler farm who's at 6 weeks the day before going to an abattoir, and then he goes to a sanctuary and a refuge, on the first day he already is starting to kind of peck at the ground and do all these natural things. And it's only going to take a short period of time before he can get in touch with who he really is again. And that's the sense that I get, like they just want to be free. It's just a basic life that they're craving, just to be able to express their natural behaviours and have close relationships with those that they want to, and be in a social kind of hierarchy, be able to search for their own food and water. Those are the things that are really, really important.
I haven't eaten meat in 32 years. Animals know this. Animals can smell in the same way. If an animal, if a carnivore comes towards an animal that is normally a prey animal, they could smell on a human if they're a meat eater. And the level of trust between almost any animal and me is very high. I can deal with just about any animal, because they know that I'm not a threat. I'm safe. But animals, to develop a relationship, and I'm talking about real communication between yourself and an animal, not that dominating. I know people who are like, animals do whatever I want them to do and that's it. But it is a matter of an equal partnership. So for me, it's very simple, because they know how safe I am. They smell me. Everybody knows how sensitive their noses are, but they absolutely know. So being vegan on top of vegetarian, I'm no threat at all, and I am able to almost instantly communicate with any animal.
The thing is you have to eat stuff that's living, and that's why a meat diet, for me, I would never be like, oh well, why would you want to consume something that's dead? Like if you put a seed into the ground, all of a sudden that one seed has so much information to produce a whole tree with flowers, with a female and a male, and to continue to create. But if you plant a piece of lamb or a piece of beef into the ground, nothing happens. And so why would you want to put that into your body? You're not putting any relative information. And so that's what we try to go for, is consume as much life as possible to give you more life.
I love that.
We are here today to talk about love, an incredibly healing medicine that in its purest form has the power to heal this world and lift it out of the darkness and the fear that currently envelops us all. But veganism, with its emphasis on loving kindness and non-violence, gives us a different kind of love, a love that includes healing, forgiveness, integrity, honesty, a love that all species can trust, the sort of love that makes you feel safe and hugged and content and at peace. Esoterically, we understand that every thought expressed is delivered into the collective field of consciousness. This is why so many spiritual teachers encourage us to focus on appreciation, gratitude, and love in a world where fear, anxiety, depression, and anger reign supreme. This is how veganism helps more pure, unconditional love into the world and helps lift it vibrationally. Love ripples, love heals, and if we all practice loving kindness to all species in the form of veganism, we could have the quantum shift to a more compassionate and peaceful world we all crave.